Well, good morning, everybody. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here. This actually is my first visit to Gwalior and first visit to your great institute, so I'm very, very pleased to be here this morning. And I want to talk to you about explaining continued usage of service innovation. Of course, initial adoption is important, and but we have to go beyond initial adoption, and especially from a managerial perspective. That is extremely important because unless the consumers continue to use the service innovation, and then of course beyond that develop some loyalty for it, it's not really going to be beneficial to the managers in the long run. And the particular service innovation I want to talk about here is a new student portal that was introduced by one of the very well-known universities in the United States, the University of Wisconsin at Madison, Wisconsin. Now, how many of you are students here? Let me see your hands. So, well, a large number of you are students here, so I think this is very relevant to you. What this student portal was designed to do was it was designed to be just a one-stop shop for the students. So by logging on to this portal, they could not only do everything that they needed to do regarding the university, get all the information pertaining to the university, like registration, scheduling, payment of fees, what's happening on the campus, but also what's happening in the city. And then, of course, they could also access information about the weather, which in the US is very critical, especially in Madison, Wisconsin, and also global news and information. So it was a one-stop shop, and now, presumably, of course, the students get all of this information otherwise, but in order to get the information without the portal, they would have to visit several different websites and log on to several different websites. So this was very convenient for them. So that is the context of this service innovation. And the presentation this morning is based on a paper called Longitudinal Model of Continued Information System Usage, an integrative level of 4 mechanisms underlying post-adoption phenomena, which I published in Management Science in 2005. So if you want more details, and especially more technical details, this is a pretty technical paper, you can refer to this particular paper. I'll talk about the motivation for this study, the research model, the methodology, data analysis, the research findings, and then contribution and implications. So what motivated us to undertake this research? Well, over the last 2 decades, information system researchers have focused on explaining user acceptance. That means the focus up to this point in the information systems area and information technology management was on initial adoption. How do you get users to initially adopt a new technology? And initial acceptance, while it is critically important, does not necessarily lead to desired managerial outcomes unless the usage continues. So employees' continued use is a driving force of long-term productivity. And of course, there is the 80-20 rule in the business to consumer context, in that 80% of your revenues, 80% of your profitability is derived from 20% of the consumers who continue to be patrons and loyal users. Now, persistent usage, excuse me, while traveling last night on the train, I seem to have developed somewhat of a hoarse throat. persistent behavior or continued usage is much more complex than initial adoption. And information researchers only recently have begun to pay greater attention to the post-adoption phenomena. So what we are dealing here is with post-adoption phenomena of an innovation, service innovation. And we have some people who have started focusing on this, but in a more of a piecemeal approach. And up to this point in time, little effort had been made to examine those phenomena with a unified conceptual framework. And so our objective, the objective of our study was to develop a longitudinal model that accounts for different mechanisms which are pertinent to explaining post-adoption of a service innovation. And we take a longitudinal view in that we look at the behavior at time 1 and then the behavior at time 2. And the question here is, how can you explain behavior at time 2? And not only that, behavior at time T1 and then behavior at time T2. Is everybody kind of gets the idea of what we are attempting to do here? Is everybody with me so far? Any questions, anybody? Okay, so we will continue with the research model. Now, you know, whenever you do research, it's very important that you have a strong conceptual model, conceptual framework, a strong theory to support whatever you're doing. Everybody with me? And if you want to know how to develop a theory, you come to my session tomorrow. That's what I'll be talking about, theory, development, and testing. Here I just want to focus on the substantive aspects of trying to explain the post-adoption phenomena or continued usage of a service innovation. Now, obviously, continued usage cannot take place unless there is initial adoption. Everybody with me? So the first step for continued usage is to get people to initially adopt a service innovation. And so in order to, so we begin with initial adoption. And of course, there is a lot of theory regarding initial adoption of an innovation, especially in the context of technology. And that is the technology, well-known technology acceptance model, the TAM model. The TAM model actually was developed in marketing, but marketing never got any credit for it. That's okay. The whole stream of research that has been spawned by the technology acceptance model. And a lot of work has taken place, including we have done work, me and my students have done some work in terms of further extending and refining the technology acceptance model, as you will see today. This is just one example of where we start off with the technology acceptance model